important Betty and Barney Hill were to me, not only through adulthood, but prior to that as well. And it's just never left me over the years. And this is what I found out. This is my point. I thought I was unique in my interest in Betty and Barney. Right? I thought that they were my little, it was the book and the thing and the meaning and the synchronicities and all of that. You start talking to people out there, and Betty and Barney Hill affected everybody. They affected the country, didn't they?
They absolutely did. So many people come up to me at conferences and say, I became interested in this topic because I saw Betty and Barney on television, or I saw the movie about Betty and Barney Hill starring James Earl Jones and Estelle Parsons. And it really had an impact on people, and I think worldwide, because that first book was published in many different languages.
The movie, and I actually talked about that. I remember seeing the movie when I was younger, and thought to myself, this is, because I was young. I was probably 8, 9, 10 years old when the movie came out. And then you go and crack open an encyclopedia, or you pick up and then you say to yourself, wait a minute, this isn't science fiction. This was a real event. As traumatic as it was and as crazy it was at that time, it was real. This wasn't somebody's imagination.
Well, Jimmy, I was very skeptical when I started to do my investigation, because I had been reading, this is in the mid to late 80s, I'd been reading newspaper articles, I had been watching television shows, and I was hearing information that sounded unfamiliar to me, that it was information that I wasn't aware of. And I was 13 when this happened. And then when I went off to college, I knew, my Uncle Barney had died, and Betty, I lived with Betty for a while when I was in college. But after that, I was just sort of out in other areas of the country, going to school, working, that sort of thing. And I hadn't really had an interest in following the UFO news regarding Betty. And then when I moved back to New Hampshire in 1983, there I was close to her again. And so I automatically picked up and started reading articles written by people like Carl Sagan and Philip Klass, and different books. And I wanted to know fact, and I wanted to know what was fiction. And that really started my investigation of my aunt and uncle's case. I wanted to leave no stone unturned, and I was going to write a book, but that book was going to have whatever I found. If all of that was a mistake based on a dream, then that's what I would have written in that book. But that's not what I found. And it has been the most fantastic investigation over so many years, with so much scientific interest. And still today, scientists are writing to me and speaking about doing different types of tests on the evidence. So it's very exciting.
Now, when you put yourself in the unique position of being there from the very beginning, right, and a
Right.
family member, knowing the inside stuff, right, and you're privy to
Yes.
the conversations with family members and the conversations that you had with Betty and Barney, versus the other research that was going on over the years, the the skeptics, the debunkers, the believers. Things get blown up, and twisted. And you've got to separate all of this and try to go on this own journey yourself, trying to figure it out. It must have been a challenge.
It was, Jimmy, but I was committed to doing it. And I, for example, interviewed Walter Webb, who was the original investigator from the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena. And I had Betty's collection, years and years and years of letters to and from scientists, all of the Air Force reports, different types of letters and information. And I acquired more from Walter Webb when I was speaking with him at his home. He asked me what I had, and I didn't have the letters that Betty wrote to Walter. I had his response, but not her letters. So he gave me that information and spoke to me about how he wished that he had looked at the spots on the trunk of their car when he was up there to interview Betty and Barney for 6 hours in early October of 1961. And he wished that he had taken a tape recorder with him. In those days, they were really pretty large. They were about the size of a picnic cooler, but he would have had to borrow one. He didn't. He thought this was just another case. Walter was an astronomer at the Hayden Planetarium in Boston. And so he was a scientist doing this investigation. He'd also worked with Alan Hynek on the satellite tracking program during his career. And so he had some regrets, but I think that he did a very good investigation given the materials that he had, which was a pen and paper and his good sense and his training to carry out a good investigation.
What was, let's talk about that for a second. What was Hynek's overall take on the case? Because he wrote the foreword to the book, An Interrupted Journey.
He did?
I believe so.
I thought it was Ben Simon.
I thought it was J. Allen Hynek. Now
Well,
I
I'll have
could be.
to look
Now
in
see,
my book.
you see, Kathleen, it's one of my fondest memories. You're killing it for me.
Sorry, Jimmy.
I thought it was J. Allen Hynek.
No,
Okay, all right.
not that I'm aware of. I believe that it was Dr. Benjamin Simon. I met Alan Hynek at Dr. Simon's house. So I was involved in all of this investigation as a teenager, and Betty and Barney were really great family members. They came to my grandparents' house a couple of 1 or 2 days a week, and I grew up across the street from them. So we would always visit, and they would bring different investigators down to meet the family. And when I was about 18 years old, they took me to Dr. Simon's house for dinner. And John Fuller, who wrote The Interrupted Journey, and Alan Hynek, because was now had probably started CUFOS.
Yes.
He was no longer working for Project Blue Book, and he was at Northwestern University, I think, unless he was still at Harvard. He worked at Harvard for a while, but whatever. I had dinner with them, and what an honor it was as I look back on that, to be in their presence with Betty and Barney. Betty and Barney took me to a lot of different things when they spoke after the book was released, and to watch them as they did radio shows, and even to a presidential inauguration, because they were very actively involved in politics. Barney in 1965 had been appointed to the U.S. Civil Rights Commission as a representative from the state of New Hampshire. So they were very politically involved. He'd received an award from Sergeant Shriver for the U.S. Poverty Program for helping to set up the Rockingham County Community Action Program. He and Betty did. And he was the first chairman of the board of directors for that. So they were very actively involved in community affairs and had always intended to share their information with scientists, with UFO investigators, confidentially with friends and family members, but we were sworn to secrecy. I couldn't go to school and tell the other kids about that.
Yeah, you would have been the hippest. You would have been the hippest. Now, let's go back for a second. I want to address two very important key issues with this that doesn't get talked about enough. Before Betty and Barney, where we had the whole contactee movement and George Van Tassel and everything that was going on at that time in Venus and okay, all right, there was that part. But alien abduction, that's a whole nother situation. And Betty and Barney have, I don't know if it's a distinct honor, right, at this point, but were they the first? Were they the first alien abduction where now we've got another situation that we're dealing with here? It's not people coming here to help us from Venus. Oh, this is an actual abduction. Were they the first?
Well, let me put it this way, Jimmy. They were the first scientifically investigated case in the United States. Before that, there had been a report to NICAP, 1955 or 56, but they simply didn't investigate it. I've investigated cases that happened before 1961, but Betty's and Barney's case was the first scientifically investigated by NICAP and others.
To be classified as an abduction?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And okay, so we have that part, and we're gonna circle back. But in 1961, the climate in the country was not what it is today. They were a biracial couple.
They were.
And so that's a whole nother element that you have to put into this, where there's a certain amount of celebrity that comes along with the first alien abduction case and everything that resulted from that, but they were also biracial. So that was a whole nother thing that they had to deal with as a couple, but the nation had to deal with this too.
Yes, and they never intended for that story to go forward to the public. It was to remain confidential. And so I think that it probably just added another layer of complexity to the entire thing when, as the violation of confidentiality, it was published in the Boston Traveler, carried in the newspaper for 5 days, and then Betty and Barney spoke for the first time after that at the Unitarian Church in Dover, New Hampshire. They were introduced by the public information officer from Pease Air Force Base. The church was packed with people, and they didn't talk about the abduction. They only talked about the close encounter that they had had. And they had met with the family before they even did that, because this didn't only impact Betty and Barney, it impacted the entire family.
Sure.
So we sat down as a family and discussed our options and what we should do. And we agreed that they should step forward now because the story had already been carried in the Boston Traveler and aroused interest. Go ahead.
And was there stress because of them being the couple that they were without the UFO situation, right? I mean, you have that element with the community too as well. And I could only imagine Betty and Barney going, you know what, we've got other stuff we're dealing with. we don't need an alien abduction situation too as well.
They didn't, Jimmy. And when John Luttrell wrote to them in September of 1965, he said that he had been speaking with Betty's friend, and that she had told him all about Betty and Barney. And if they were as nice as she said they were, that he would just love to speak with them about this experience. He thinks it is probably the greatest experience that anyone had had, and he promised that he would never commercialize that information in any way if they would speak with him. And they said, absolutely not. This is to remain confidential. We have jobs to worry about. You know, she's a social worker for the state of New Hampshire, known for that. He works for the post office. And they didn't want to lose their jobs. They didn't want to be thought of as a couple of UFO kooks. They'd never had an interest in that topic before that event happened to them. And so it was pretty stressful when this happened, and especially because it had such an impact on Barney. The abduction itself. He was the one who had the conscious, continuous recall of stopping the car as the craft hovered 200 feet overhead, of getting out of the car with the binoculars and looking up at this craft, stepping back, and when he stepped back, the craft moved to an adjacent field that would have been to the east, and moved down,
drove the car
lower.
down, right? Which was, you know what? Can I just say this? Barney was
Yes.
crazy, right? I mean, you have a choice, right? You can continue up the freeway. They were looking for a hotel or something, right? You just go and continue on. You don't necessarily turn right and drive into the field, but Barney did. I'm glad that he
He didn't
did.
drive into the field, Jimmy. The craft hovered over the road. It shifted ahead
Right.
and hovered over the road. If he had not moved his car to the center of the road, he would have been underneath the craft. And so he did not believe this was even possible. So he was going to prove to Betty that this was a conventional aircraft.
Right.
And so he stepped out of the car and
walked into the
very
field
quickly that it wasn't.
Right, and the okay, so let's move forward from this. Actually, I want to go to the next day
Okay.
because and you can correct me if I'm wrong. You and I have talked about this enough, so hopefully my memory's not that bad. That you went to the house the next day, right?
Betty called my childhood home the next day.
Mm-hmm.
I was at their house about 2 days later.
Yeah,
I
2
think
days
it was
later.
the 22nd or 23rd, something
Right.
like that.
And so take me through that. What did Betty say? What I can only imagine the phone call. What did she say the next day?
Well, when she called my mother on the phone, it was the day that they had the event and arrived home, September 20th. And she called my mother and she said that she and Barney had this close-up sighting of a flying saucer the night before, and that it had come so close to them that she was afraid they'd been contaminated, that they might have had been radiated. And when they arrived home that morning, they were later than they thought they would be. They took long showers. They felt, what she said, the word clammy. They felt filthy and clammy, much more so than you would feel by simply driving and having a wonderful time on your vacation trip. And she wanted my mother to call a neighbor of ours who was a physicist, to ask him what she and Barney should do. How could they be tested to see if they were going to have radiation poisoning? And so my mother called the physicist, and he said a very strange thing. It wasn't about radiation at all. He said, if Betty has a compass, have her take it out to the car and see how the needle reacts. And so Betty then found her compass. She took it out to the car. She started on the side of the car. It just behaved like a normal compass. But when she reached the trunk of the car, she saw several shiny spots that hadn't been there the day before. And they were about the size of quarters or half dollars. I saw them too when I went down later. And so she held the compass over those spots, and the needle whirled. And when she moved it away, the needle dropped down again. So that was an indication of a magnetic field on the trunk of the vehicle.
And so, what was the atmosphere like when you arrived on day two? Who was with you?
My mother, my father, and my two younger brothers were there. And Betty advised us that Barney was going to be different than we were accustomed to. He was usually very interested in anything we had to say. He played games with us, chess and checkers, and we talked. He had a real interest in the children in the family and seeing us do well. And so he was different. He was sitting over in the corner by the telephone, and he was waiting for a call from Pease Air Force Base. They had made a call on the 21st of September at the advice of my father's best friend, who was the chief of police in the next town over from where I grew up. And he said that Pease Air Force Base had contacted the police stations and told them that if anyone reported a UFO, to tell those people to report it to Pease Air Force Base. So that's what happened. The information was passed to Betty and Barney, and they did make the report to Pease Air Force Base. But the Major Henderson wanted to speak further to Betty and Barney because there had been a radar report at 2:14 a.m. on the night that they were abducted, and this craft had apparently come out of the east, and the ocean was to the east, and was traveling toward the west. And so Pease Air Force Base was interested if there might have been a connection between that craft, unidentified, and what happened with Betty and Barney. And the report ended up saying that they never saw a physical craft. They only saw sort of the blip on the radar screen. They saw it there, but they didn't visually see it. So that's what they had to say. And my father sat quietly with Barney, and they talked. And my father told me later, this is years later during my investigation, that Barney was very clear about what he saw and clear about the figures dressed in black shiny uniforms who were looking down at him, and how threatened he felt, that he felt like he was going to be captured, and running back to the car, and the buzzing sounds on the trunk of the car, where those spots happened to be, by the way. And my mother, my two brothers, and I were in another part of the house with Betty, and she was telling us all about the experience.
What was her demeanor like?
She wanted information. She was concerned, but she was kind of excited in a way that this is something that is a mystery that she wants to solve. And We went out and we saw the spots on the trunk of the car. We lifted my little brother up. I remember all of this because it was so shocking to me. It's not the kind of thing that you ever forget. And my brother and I then started to try to rub the spots off, and my mother and Betty saw us and said, "Don't touch them. Maybe they'll harm you." And so then we were very quickly taken back into the house. I saw Betty's watch. She said, "See if you can make this watch run." And so I wound it up, and I couldn't make that watch run no matter what I did. And forever, that watch said 5:15. So that's about the time that they thought they arrived home, and their watches were not running. They went into the house. They saw it was 5:15. They set their watches and wound them, and they just never ran again.
Let's take our break right here. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, the one and only Kathleen Marden. This is the 60th anniversary of the Betty and Barney Hill abduction case. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. I'll be right back. Kathleen's website, Kathleen Marden, is linked up over at jimmychurchradio.com. The new book is out, and you can get it on Amazon. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, Black on jimmychurchradio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. Introducing the Game Changer blend from Rivermoon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all Rivermoon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. Getthetea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years, and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's getthetea.com. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
Fadernauts. When you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey. You're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Kathleen Marden is here. It is the 60th anniversary of the Betty and Barney Hill alien abduction case. Incredible, incredible story. And the thing for me is Kathleen was there. Well, she wasn't there. You know, I always, Kathleen, when I say that you were there, I don't want anybody to think that you were like hiding in the trunk of the car. You know, you weren't there, but you were there. And so continuing our conversation from where we left off, there's a couple of things that I want to talk about directly, and one of them is this. I know that Barney, there was the conscious part of this, the events that happened in the car, what the both of them saw, the windows, the uniforms, the threat, the feeling. I believe there was an item in the glove box that kind of surprised Betty a little bit too as well, right? Didn't he have something in the glove box?
Oh, are you talking about a gun?
A gun? Right? So this is...
That was actually in the trunk of the car.
The trunk of the car.
And he took it out of the trunk of the car at their first stop to look at this. Not when the craft came ahead, but he had put the gun on the seat of the car.
This is all the conscious things, right? These are the things that they can talk about with the family. Did Barney? This has been talked about a lot. I'm going to ask you these questions, you know, in a direct sense. Did Barney start to have memories of the other stuff that happened aboard the craft, or was all of that later in the sessions?
All of that was under hypnosis. Barney had some conscious recall, both Betty and Barney, of finding themselves on a dirt road with tall trees all around. They remembered a roadblock. They didn't know where or when it occurred. They remembered a fiery orb, a huge red-orange orb sitting on the ground. And that was their conscious recall after Barney had seen the figures and felt that he was going to be captured. So, yeah, that's what they remembered. And then, as before Barney started to see Dr. Benjamin Simon, he was at my childhood home, and we were just trying to help him to remember. They had gone to a psychiatrist wanting hypnosis earlier than that, and he said that he didn't want to do it then because their memories would return over time. So some of those memories did return. Barney remembered in a great release of emotion in my childhood dining room that these non-human entities, the ones he had seen on the craft, were standing in the road, and how they walked differently from humans, kind of like they had sea legs in a sense. And one of them was carrying a light. He knew that. So they did remember some things before they underwent hypnosis.
When you, and like myself and anybody else that has listened to those tapes, know about the great amount of stress and trauma that Barney went through, and to hear that from a grown man, an adult, but then there is the Uncle Barney that you knew. Right?
Yes.
And you're listening to the contrast of this. When you first heard those tapes, how did you feel?
I wept when
Right.
I first listened to Barney being so fearful, and the reason for that is that he did not want to go on to remember what he had lost his memory for. And Dr. Simon pushed him and forced him to go on. And Barney was saying, please, Dr. Simon, don't make me. And Dr. Simon said, it's over now. It's in the past. You will remember. And that is when Barney had this abreaction. It was the first major release of emotion that he had had under hypnosis, and the only one.
Now, after the sessions, how did he change? Was he a different person?
After the hypnosis sessions, he was more back to being the old Barney that we knew. He was much more relaxed.
Right.
He was willing to speak about to us about what he remembered. He was kind of looking at this intellectually. Barney was highly intelligent, IQ 140, and he was sort of introverted in a way. Although he was very gregarious, he always thought about what he was going to say before he said it. And he was very rational and just formed all of his words perfectly with not too many words. Betty was just the opposite of Barney. She didn't think for a long time before she spoke, and she was very descriptive in everything she said. So completely different descriptive styles and speech styles. That's what I discovered when I was doing the comparative analysis of their statements under hypnosis.
And how did she change? Because we have the same situations happening with Betty that we had with Barney. We had the before, we had the middle, we have the sessions that went down, we have the press, we have the media, we have jobs, we have they are going through the exact same things. How did Betty change over the years?
Well, Betty, to begin with, as a social worker, was a fearless woman. Let me give you an example. She worked in child welfare at that particular time, and she had a foster child in one of the homes that she was in charge of. and the girl had run away and was holed up in a motel with her boyfriend who had escaped from prison. And Betty was called in by the police because she was the social worker. And the police were there outside this motel room, guns drawn. And Betty, over the bullhorn, said to the girl, "I'm tired of standing here waiting for you. Get dressed and get out here now." And in a few minutes, the girl came out of the motel room, and Betty put her in her car and took her back to the foster home. But, Betty, that's just an example of how fearless Betty was. She was fearless to marry a black man in 1960. She was highly intelligent, curious. She was an experimenter. She wasn't afraid of people. She talked to many people from the military. And so I think that after this was made public, she just wanted to talk about it, wanted to talk about what happened to her and how unusual this was, and try to gain an understanding of it. And she did have military people who were supporting her and verified to her that, yes, this event is real. We know about these extraterrestrial craft, or that's what we assume they are, at least. And so she went on becoming even stronger, I think, as time went on. She also had a great sense of humor.
And there is the same recall situations when we're talking about Barney. Betty, for me, went through some technical, astronomical. We'll get to all of that in a bit. But she had recall and was able to draw. She sculpted, right, and did a few things. Yes. And that part for me was amazing. But it was also something that was not discovered yet. It wasn't a part of science yet. It wasn't something that you could look up. But yet she's documenting this for the first time. And when you go and you confirm this, 5 years later, 6 years later, 7 years later, 1968, 69, 70, 71, 72, when these celestial bodies were starting to get confirmed, you go back to, and I'm so thankful, of Betty's sessions and the way she was able to recall all of this scientific data. It was remarkable, wasn't it?
It really was. And when she was on the craft, she had finished with her examination, and she was left alone with the one that she called the leader. I always call them the escorts today. The examiner had gone in to examine Barney. And so she had lost her fear of him because he had taken away her pain that occurred during her physical exam, right, when a needle was placed in her navel. And so she said to him, "I know you're not from around here. Where is your home port?" And so he produced this sort of three-dimensional star map. And there were two very large stars, one about the size of a nickel, of the other a quarter, in the foreground, with 5 lines between them indicating trade routes. And then there were 3 others with 2 lines. And then there was another one with 3 solid lines. And then there were several others that had dotted lines connecting them. And so these were expeditions, and there were others without lines. So Dr. Simon said to Betty, if you can remember this accurately and it doesn't bother you too much, go home and over the next week or two, sketch this map that you saw. And so she did. She went home. She did have a photographic memory when she was younger, which was very good for her.
Useful, yes.
Yes, very useful. So she sketched it, and it was published in the Interrupted Journey. It's also in Captured. And Marjorie Fish, a brilliant woman from Ohio, member of Mensa, saw it in the Interrupted Journey. She was an amateur astronomer.
She was a teacher, right? She was a teacher.
Yes.
Yeah.
She started out as a teacher. She went to work at the nuclear laboratories, Oak Ridge Nuclear Laboratories, after later on, after she did the star map work. But she started to build three-dimensional models. She had to go to the university. There were no photocopying machines, no computers. And so she couldn't take the catalogs out. She had to sit and copy all of the characteristics and distance data that we had back in those early days in the astronomical catalogs. Then she took all that data back to her house and started building three-dimensional models in frames. She used monofilament line and beads of different colors and sizes. And I am just in awe at the mathematical ability of this woman.
Her craftsmanship.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's the math and the research and everything. She had to compile the data, but she was a craftsperson.
Yes.
They were incredible.
Her patience to do this for 4 to 5 years and still not have a match. She was building models 54 light years out from our sun in all directions.
And let's get to the main point here. What year did she start building the star map?
It was about 1967, 1968. I met her in 1968.
68, and the star map was drawn in 65. The book came out in 66.
Yes.
Right? See, my memory's not that bad. It's not that bad, everybody. I don't have notes.
You're doing very well, Jimmy.
but so back to this. When my recollection is that Marjorie, as she's compiling the star map, has her revelation, and that took a while too to get released, didn't it? It just didn't come out right away.
It did take a while. She had already built 14 models without a match. And then she went to the university, and there was a new Gliese catalog that had just been released with updated distance data. And so she went back and she rearranged things in one of those models. So it was now accurate with distance data. There were 3 stars on that model now that hadn't been there. They were considered to be more than 54 light years away. And so she did this, and she had a match for Betty's map.
Now, I want everybody to understand something here, and it's just as unbelievable as it gets. But you have to go back to 1966, 65, and prior to that, there were no satellites. We didn't know what was behind the sun. We hadn't gone out and observed. This hardcore scientific data didn't start to reveal itself until 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72. The encounter with Betty and Barney was 1961. The hypnosis sessions went down in 1965. Am I correct on these dates?
Yes, the hypnosis was finished in 64.
64.
Yes.
Okay, but all of this scientific data didn't come out until much, much later. There was no way that Betty Hill could have known about this binary star system.
There isn't. It's in the southern hemisphere, and it's very dim even in the southern hemisphere. She hadn't studied astronomy in college, and so she couldn't have known about this star system, Zeta Reticuli, the net. So it was remarkable.
It was absolutely astoundingly remarkable. Now, it's funny how we were talking about Barney in the beginning and his sessions and how, what was revealed with Betty for me was the game changer. It was just absolutely incredible. How did the scientific community start to respond to Marjorie Fish's star map and the confirmation of Betty's hand-drawn star map?
Well, this involves Stanton Friedman because Marjorie was having difficulty drawing interest from the scientific community. So Coral Lorenzen, who was the co-director of of APRO, the Aerial Phenomena Research Organization, got in touch with Stanton Friedman. And Stan had begun to travel and speak in that time frame. And she said, if you happen to be speaking in Ohio, please meet with Marjorie Fish. So he did. And Stanton told me that he was very impressed with Marjorie, at how meticulous she was, how scientific in her work, how intelligent. He said that she was more comfortable speaking with scientists than with people in the general public. And so Stanton agreed to find scientists to vet Marjorie's work. Alan Hynek was one of those, and he said that Marjorie's work was accurate. There were two others as well. One was David Saunders from the Condon Committee, one of the head investigators, who was a statistician. And another one was the head of the astronomy department at Ohio State University, and by then there were computers, so his students did a computer-generated model and agreed that Marjorie's work was accurate.
How much do you miss Stanton?
Oh, I miss him. Yes.
I miss him. Earlier today, I didn't want to post it, but maybe I will later, but I have some of my most favorite photographs are of the three of us together that we've taken over the years. We've done it so many different times at different events, but man, I miss that guy. I just miss him. I miss him. I miss him. I do a good Stanton Friedman, but I'm not going to do it on the air. But so Stanton also. You've known him for a long time, but then you guys got back together. How many years ago now? This has been about 5.
Well, I approached him and asked him if he would be interested in contributing to Captured back in. Let me think.
15, 16?
2005, I think it was. 2005.
But what I was referring to is the research that you guys started to get so serious about. Did that kick off for Captured in 2015? When I was speaking with you at conferences, and you and Stanton were together.
I had been attempting to interest scientists in doing research all along, and some of it had been done. Our first book was published in 2007, and then Stanton and I went on to write 2 additional books. Science Was Wrong and Fact, Fiction, and Flying Saucers.
Right.
So we were working together starting in about 2008 at conferences.
His contribution to the Betty and Barney Hill case, his interest was there from 1968, right? 1969.
Yes, his interest was there early on, and he was the first to publish on the star map. he ended up writing the script for a documentary film, where he interviewed Marjorie, he interviewed Betty, he interviewed Walter Mitchell, the astronomy professor, Alan Hynek, I believe. So he did that as well. He had met Betty and Barney only a couple of months before Barney's death in 1969, and was very impressed with them. They were in, I think it was Ohio at that point. I think it was around that time, in Ohio or Indiana. It was, my memory, I'm tired, I'm sorry. But anyway, he knew a radio show host, and Betty and Barney were on that show, and the host knew Stanton so well, he told Stanton where Betty and Barney were staying. He called Stan up. And so he met Betty and Barney for dinner and interviewed them before Barney's death. And then just continued this work with learning more from Betty. They would see one another at conferences when Betty would speak. And I met Stanton for the first time, I think it was back in 1971.
Wow.
Or 72 at the University of New Hampshire. So I had known him for a long time.
Now, before we head to a break, I want to talk. We talked about the star map. I want to talk about the sculpture. And Betty created a bust of, I would say, what's like the first version of a gray. And I don't know if prior to that, it's certainly with everything that I've read over the years and have seen in my research, I don't know if there was anything prior to that.
Not that I'm aware of, and I've done research on that. People had, of course, been abducted by the Greys, but their cases hadn't been investigated. So Betty and Marjorie Fish. Marjorie was visiting, and they used chicken wire and a balloon, and they each sculpted a gray.
And did you see it did you see the original bust?
Oh, absolutely.
And what did you think? It's frightening looking to me. I mean, frightening is not the word.
So.
No. Frightening is not the word. Realistic is the word. That's where I'm going.
Yes, it was realistic looking, and I thought that they did a very good job sculpting it, and it was interesting. It was, it was different from humans, but not that much different. It didn't have any hair, and its skin color was grayish. It had yellow whites for eyes, and the eyes glowed in the dark, not on Betty's sculpture, but that was just coming to my mind. And just a slit for a mouth, but there was a membrane inside that mouth that Betty and Barney saw.
Right.
That fluttered, and just a small nose, no external ear.
Now, the sculpture, was that the Examiner? And were there more than one type of ET on the craft?
The sculpture was of the leader.
The leader.
The one that Betty liked so much. And there were two different types of entities on the craft in size. The small ones that we know today are the guards and the assistants. They make sure that you don't get off the craft with anything that belongs to them. Well, that was one group, the small ones, and they waited in the hallway. Betty told me how frightened she was of this one, head larger in proportion to its body than the taller Greys. And he was just staring in to that room, and Betty kept her eyes closed a lot, she told me, because she didn't want to look at him. She didn't mind looking at the examiner and the leader because they were taller grays, 5 to 5.5 feet tall, and heads smaller in proportion to their bodies. They looked very Asian to her, only different as well. Larger eyes, a smaller nose, Asian kind of nose. And, so she wasn't as frightened of them at all.
In the end, and we're going to take a break right here. And when I say in the end, after all of, the book and did they have an overall negative take on this? Was there a reason for the world to be fearful?
No. These entities assured Betty and Barney over and over again that they would not harm them, that they only needed to do a few simple tests, that they would be released to go along their way after the tests were completed. And as they took Barney out and put him into the car first, but when they took Betty out, the leader apologized to her for frightening her. And that's when she asked him if he could come back, that she would like to arrange a meeting with people who were more knowledgeable than she was. And he said, well, maybe I can come back. I'm not certain. And she said, well, if you can come back, how will you find me? Out of all of the people on this planet, how will you find me? And he said, we can always find those that we are looking for.
Let's take our break right here. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Kathleen Marden. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We will be right back. This is Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. Fadernauts, when you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
Hi, I'm Stephen Briggs from the Surfer Music app. Surfer links thousands of stations displaying song titles and artists organized by genre. It's easy to find your favorites. You can join our Kickstarter campaign. Help us build 5 new features for the Surfer Music app. find out more, go to Kickstarter.com and search for Surfer Music, S-U-R-F-R. For a direct link, go to surfer.fm and click the Kickstarter banner. That's SURFR.fm.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Kathleen Marden is with us. It is the 60th anniversary of the Betty and Barney Hill abduction. And I want to change gears. And it's another important part of this entire story. And that is you, Kathleen. You are out there speaking to other experiencers, and you've had a life of contact. I remember, it was a couple of years ago, and you were on with us, and you were telling me about, I don't want to, we can go into the details, but you had a missing time experience just driving home from a conference one night. And this is something that I want to know if you think it's connected back to your aunt and uncle.
I know it is connected, Jimmy, because my Aunt Betty was doing CE5 experiments with a team of scientists in the mid-'60s and attempting to bring a craft in to land on my grandparents' farm. I grew up across the street from my grandparents, and a craft did come in. It landed within 200 feet of my childhood home. It left physical trace evidence on the ground. It was observed by two different people. One was a commercial pilot returning home from work. The other was my grandmother out her bedroom window. And I think that is probably the time when my mother and I were taken to craft. I think that maybe these non-humans thought that Betty had invited them to meet the family. Or, I know now from the three major research studies that I've worked on that of about 5,000 experiencers at this point, that it is generational and intergenerational. So I could have been taken before that. I'm not certain. My mother had an experience where she went grocery shopping every Friday night like clockwork, and she would always arrive home at the same time. But on one night, she just didn't come home. And my father and my brothers and I were worried about her. We couldn't sleep. And finally, she arrived home and didn't realize that she was late. And she came into the house, they unloaded the groceries, and the frozen food was thawed, the ice cream was soup. She was missing for quite a period of time with no explanation. And we were just told, oh, well, just forget about it and never speak about this. And so I never did until fairly recently after my mother died.
You can't refreeze ice cream, right? Can't refreeze ice cream, and with your experiences and what you knew and know about Betty and Barney, were there similarities? The uniforms, the craft, the things.
Oh yes, they looked the same, Jimmy, and they actually communicated to me what they were doing. They took a flesh sample from me, and they told me that it was to check my body for the levels of toxicity. And I know now, I didn't understand it then, but I know now why. And that is, I grew up less than a mile away from what later became a Superfund site that was leaching neurotoxins and all sorts of carcinogens into the water. I grew up near a nuclear base that was in Newington, New Hampshire, right next to Portsmouth. And then there was the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard right across the river from Portsmouth, and they were building nuclear submarines.
And how often do you think you were making contact with Betty and Barney? We have the event in 1961. With you, it has been ongoing.
Well, with Betty, it was ongoing too, but she was so criticized that she would never state that publicly.
Right.
But so when I was younger, it was maybe once every 6 months. I had one period where it was fairly frequent, maybe once a month for about 3 months. And then as I have grown older, it became less frequent. And I'm at the stage now where I can feel a presence that I can't see. You know, human visual range wide.
Right.
And I can feel the strong electrical tingling sensation and receive telepathic information.
Now,
messages.
I've been talking all week, all month, if not all year, about experiencers and where we are today with, at this stage of disclosure, and we'll talk more about that in just a bit, but of Pentagon and pilots and videos. This phenomenon is experiencers. And we need to hear more from them. And I'm starting to feel that the experiencers are able to come forward now and start to speak. And people are here to listen. Do you feel the same way?
I do believe that many of them are now coming forward, especially those who are older and have nothing to lose and they can speak about this. I've been speaking to them for years, and I set up the Experiencer Research Team, just recently changed to the Experiencer Resource Team at MUFON, and we receive about 75 reports every month from people who want contact with the 50 members of our team who speak with experiencers on a day-to-day basis. It's also on Facebook. There are all kinds of groups for experiencers where they can discuss information with one another. So, and a lot of people are writing books now. Experiencers are writing about their own experiences. So I think a lot less likely to receive the kind of ridicule that Betty and Barney and Travis Walton and so many other credible experiencers received.
I ask everybody the same question. I'm going to ask you right now. What is your definition of experiencer? There are so many people out there that have contact or they see things, but what is an experiencer? Because I don't know if I am one. I want to be called an experiencer, but I don't know if I'm qualified in saying that. What's the definition?
Well, John Mack came up with that term. So we had contactees and we had abductees. And so there was kind of a disagreement about what everyone should be called. Should everyone be a contactee? And the abductee said, no, I'm not a contactee. The same went for the contactees. They're not abductees. John Mack came up with the word experiencer, meaning that they could be a contactee or they could be an abductee, but this kind of a generic term to describe that who they are, that they have had contact with non-human entities that they believe are extraterrestrials.
Do I have to be abducted to be an experiencer?
You don't have to be abducted as such. You could have a non-human entity come into your home. Being healed today. The people who are older and beginning to develop cancer or heart disease, fewer and fewer are being taken to craft, and we are beginning to wonder if the genetic studies, the reproductive part of all of this, has come to an end, because we receive almost no reports of that now.
Yeah, it's very strange. Okay, so next, because everything overlaps, right, is a contactee an experiencer?
Yes.
Yes, right?
Yes.
Almost a circle or a square can be a rectangle, right? And so with all of this, and I had Yvonne Smith on the show earlier this week, and she's great. And I had asked her if I could attend a Zero meeting. I'm like, I want to come hang out. Jimmy, are you an experiencer? Right? She's vetting me on the show. But so I'm not so sure that if I'm qualified to go to one of those group sessions and sit down and have a conversation with everybody. Do you understand where I'm going with this?
Well, are you an experiencer?
See,
if you're not, then no.
Yeah,
but
if I'm out with a group of friends and we see something crazy in the sky,
you're not an experiencer.
I'm not,
You're just a witness. You're just a witness then, a witness to a light in the sky or an unconventional craft in the sky.
Now,
you have to have had contact with non-humans.
So I'm out. I'm out of the car. I'm out of the car at this point. At least that I know of. Let's go there. Right? Now,
yes.
Somebody posted the other night, late in the show, into the experiencer community. How does that happen?
Well, in order to be an experiencer, you have to have had contact. If you've never had contact, you might want to go down to Peru with with the Rama group down there, where they are seeing craft rise up out of the ocean and come over, and communicate and see. You can see the non-human entities. There have been many witnesses to that. There's also up at Mount Shasta, where some people have observed non-human entities as well. So, I mean, but that is more of a contact experience because you can receive some information, but you're not going to be part of a genetic program.
And what about contacting a group? Of course, there is what you're doing over at MUFON. What would you suggest to somebody that's listening to this that hasn't approached anything yet, and they're wondering what they should do? What's the best advice?
I would say be careful what you wish for, because if you try to call in entities, there are negative interdimensionals who are just dying to hook onto a human, to feast on that human's emotions, and they will cause you to experience pain. They will feed off your fear, off your loathing, and they are real. I can tell you they're real because I accidentally picked one up and had to have it removed when I was investigating a case that I was so curious about that I went beyond. This man was having experiences with the type of reptilian entities that live under the ground, and they were doing horrible things to humans. And all of a sudden, I just felt all of the goodness, the tingling just left my body. And it was like I became depressed in a sense immediately. And I've never suffered from depression. But then I started to have sleep disturbances. I wasn't able to sleep well. I'd wake up during the night. I hadn't had that before. My body was beginning to ache. And as I started to use bad language that I hadn't used before. And so I knew that something had happened to me. And it started speaking with me telepathically. It said, "You're going to die soon. Why don't you just do it?" And it really, I said, finally, rid of this. I have to have this negative entity attachment removed. This was not extraterrestrial. And so I went to a friend who speaks telepathically with a number of different extraterrestrials. He lives in the same town that I live in. And he asked them to remove this entity. I had spoken with his extraterrestrials before, experimentally, and was gone.
I have never heard you speak like a sailor, but if I ever hear that, I think I would be in shock. For you to have this start coming out of you, how did that make you feel? Because it's not in your personality. I know you.
No, it made me feel very concerned and embarrassed that I was communicating with my friends differently than I normally do. That's how it made me feel. I was just really concerned, and I thought, this is real. There is something that is trying to attach to me that is influencing my behavior. Some people call it demonic oppression. I prefer to call it a negative entities from the astral realm. And it was there. I've worked with men, and these men are all in their 50s when their experiences began. And when they close their eyes, they go to this place under the ground where people are being tortured by these draconian reptilians are having horrible things done to them, so bad that I'm not going to repeat it.
Oh man, the recent, I don't know if it's your most recent, but the experience of missing time after you left a conference, who were you with?
I was with Denise Stoner.
That's right, Denise Stoner. Right.
Yes, and Denise is now the assistant director of MUFON in the state of Florida. Back then, she was the chief investigator. And we had gone to a conference in St. Pete. My father was with us, and so we left the conference and we were on our way home, and my GPS started to malfunction, and I ended up driving off the highway into a desolate area, and I thought, what? I stopped the car, turned off the GPS, said, I know the way home anyway. I just won't use this GPS. So we're driving home, and we're all talking, and suddenly my father becomes silent. And then Denise and I experience the feeling that the car is going up a steep hill. There aren't any steep hills in Central Florida. And then things are out of sequence. We find the time we arrived there, her cell phone that had been fully charged was completely dead. And she was wearing an insulin pump that was fully charged, and that was beeping. She called her husband and she said, I will be home. I'm going to be a little late, but I'm on my way home. And she was very late in arriving home. Well, she also had some evidence on her vehicle. The dashboard had high electromagnetic reading. Everything was malfunctioning, and her husband had to get that fixed. But she came over to my house finally, and we used a tri-field meter so that I could just see that for myself and investigate it. We took it into my house and we turned it on, and it wouldn't stop buzzing. It remained at the highest level on the electromagnetic field. And so the two of us started backing up, and we backed up at least 12 to 15 feet before it dropped down and stopped buzzing. So we asked my husband to do an experiment, to walk up to that slowly and find out when it started buzzing. Because if you do walk up to it quickly, that will happen.
Mm-hmm.
So he did, and it just behaved normally. Then we tried one at a time, and it happened for each of us. So we think that that was probably related contact event that we had. I hypnotized her, and she remembered being taken down a hallway, and she looked into a room, and there was a woman sitting on a bench who was wearing the clothing that I was wearing that night, and an elderly man who was balding was sitting next to her, and that was the description of my father. So it was brief. I guess they were replacing an implant, and I don't know if anything further happened with my father and I, but I was taken the following night. I woke up when I bounced on the bed, and my head hurt, my back hurt. I was I was very uncomfortable. In fact, I was going to write the experience that I had just remembered, and I was in too much pain to do that. So finally, Denise Stoner hypnotized me, and what I discovered is that I was taken to craft by probably her entities, not mine. There was a gray when I woke up then, my eyes opened, and I saw this gray I had never seen before. He looked almost robotic. He had a flat face with eyes that were framed in metal. And I think he might have been bio-robotic. And I know that when he dropped me and I opened my eyes in pain, the two taller ones who were standing down by my feet seemed not to be very happy with him. And
he was right. Yeah, he was right.
Telepathically.
He was right about that. I remember speaking with you right after this happened, and it was before you were on Fade to Black with us the last time, but we were able to speak right after this event, and I called you up and said, "How you doing?" "Jimmy, something strange happened to Denise Stoner and I," and you had told me the whole thing, and I thought about your dad immediately. How do you did you discuss these things with him?
He was elderly, and he was living in my guest house just across the driveway from me. He had his meals with us, and so I did. He came in the morning, and I said, "Dad, I think I might have been taken last night, and I was injured." And he said, "I think you were too. I was looking out my window and there were strange lights out there."
Now that's where I'm going. Okay, so you and Denise in your two sessions, you guys didn't necessarily see a craft, did you?
I didn't see a craft, no.
And neither did Denise. No, but your dad apparently did.
He did see one, yes.
And how did he describe it?
He just said that it had like bright, multicolored lights, I think he said, that were flashing outside his window, and he has the shades that you can see through, the blinds. And so he saw those lights, and he got up and looked out the window.
How old is your dad?
At the time that happened, he was about 89 years old.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, he passed away when he was 92.
Absolutely incredible. I want to thank you so much, Kathleen. It was a very stressful week here for myself, building the studio, getting things up and running. You are an absolute professional, and such a friend for you to go, Jimmy. It's okay. It's okay.
Thank you,
it's
Jimmy.
Okay. And it's just been another great conversation. Thank you so much. Where can everybody reach out to you? Where can everybody get the book?
Well, my website is at kathleen-marden.com. All of my books are for sale, autographed copies, and the ones that I wrote with Stanton, I have his autograph on them as well, because we had stickers. And so there, and my book was, it's a little after many places, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Target, all sorts of book outlets. It will probably be, I think it'll be in the physical locations as well.
And, I want the audience to know the original plan was to announce, with Kathleen, the imminent release of the book. And we ended up, it's the way the universe works. You came on the day the book was released.
Thank you, Jimmy. It was such a pleasure to talk to you again.
Absolutely. And give my best to your husband, and just be safe out there.
I will. I'm not making any more night trips.
Kathleen Marden. Thank you so much,
care.
Kathleen. This is Fade to Black. I'm going to take a quick break, and I will come back, and I'll get to your phone calls. Kathleen Marden, incredible. 60th anniversary. Can you believe it? Betty and Barney Hill. My camera's over here now. I'm so used to looking over here. It is 051. Now we're going to test those phone lines. I'll be right back.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah.
This is Billy Carter. Has just reached its 1-year anniversary. That's right, 1 year. And as a show of appreciation, we are giving all new subscribers a free 30-day trial of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's 30 days to binge watch thousands of movies, documentaries, conferences, workshops, lectures, yoga classes, meditation courses, and so much more. So log on to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv from your computer or mobile device, or get the Forbidden Knowledge iTunes or Google Play today and use coupon code 30daysfree. That's coupon code 30daysfree on ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer. Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Code F2B blend for 15% off of your order today.
Hello, I'm Kathleen, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, I'm only little. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. Yes. We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And I'm Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. And you're listening to Jimmy Church. The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Kathleen Marden, what a great conversation tonight, and with everything that went down at the beginning of the show. And oh man, your mind, my mind, and to go from the mass confusion to we're back. Okay, we're online, and I had to call Kathleen back and go, oh, okay, we're going to do this, after apologizing to her that we couldn't do it. And she, what a professional. And just to come on and have that conversation with all of you. Absolutely incredible. And so I'm opening up the phone lines. I don't know if I'm going to get to calls just yet. I've got a few on hold. 747-228-2051. 747-228-2051. Let's break in these phone lines. I haven't tested them. Well, I sort of did a couple of days ago, but they're lighting up. I think things are working. We'll find out. Okay, so, but what I want to talk about right now, well, okay, let me back up for a second. The importance of Betty and Barney Hill to me, it just cannot be measured. And to have Kathleen with us in our community, discussing this firsthand it's a national treasure, and just such a cool thing, such a cool experience. I can't stress it enough. I was a little bit, I'm putting calls on hold, so just stay right there. Because my prep for the show, I don't line up questions. I don't write things down. I don't do that. This is always an organic conversation. And it was interesting how my memory from reading the book, I thought my memory was that J. Allen Hynek wrote the foreword. And I haven't gone back and reread it. I don't have a copy of it here, if you can believe that. But to be corrected by Kathleen, amazing. And I'm sitting here thinking, no, I can't argue with Kathleen Marden, and that's not going to. I had to go back and just think about this. I looked up the book. We're doing the conversation. I look at it. Sure enough, J. Allen Hynek did not write the foreword to it. I went through a Mandela effect. I can't stress it out enough to all of you. All right. So that being said, before I head to the break, I'll see if I can. But I got to say this, okay? Everybody that's on hold, just stay right there. Mark Tarana is back in the sandbox. And Mark, you have been missing for months, putting all of us through a panic. And tonight I glanced down for the first time in months. I see a tweet from Mark Tarana. And I immediately responded back. Now, I'm saying to the Fadernauts, check it out. Bloke from Oz is in the sandbox tonight. And I don't know. Were you abducted? What happened? And, yeah, Eric, Awakening Man, just said, see if he can call in. And he just replied back, yo, Church, did you miss me? We all missed you. I certainly did. But I don't know if we all deserve an explanation. But I'm just happy to see you. We were worried. And Mark Tarana is right here with us, Fade or Not. Now, so everybody can go and, yeah, April Fools. I want everybody to tag Mark. I want everybody to give Mark a big shout out and a big hello and maybe a little bit of a hard time to just tweeting away that you got in a car accident. Is that what that is? He's posting really? Mark, we need to know. We need to know. All right. You can deal with me privately too as well. But this is a really big deal. This is a really big deal. Call in, Dundee. He's getting the attention tonight. And thank you, Mark, for the GT350 gift. That is pretty cool as well. But he posted the accident in Bullitt, and with Steve McQueen when the Dodge Charger spins off the freeway and does the big roll. I'm hoping that you're not saying that you got in a car accident. That is just okay, Mark. Okay, we see you now, brother. I would like to know why the absence. Look, Mark is part of the Fade or Not fan page. He's one of the administrators over there. He's in the sandbox every night. He's calling into the show. He's a big part of Fade to Black. And then, gone. Just gone. I can assure you, I reached out, and I got no replies. And so we were indeed very, very. Eric says 4 months. Yeah, 4 months. Crazy. And just popped up here in Fade to Black. All right. So I am going to, I got the commercials all twisted up and backed up and around. And I don't know how I did that tonight, but I managed to run things out of order. I'm going to take a quick break and I will come back to your phone calls. This is Fade to Black. Thank you, Kathleen Marden. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Incredible conversation. What a great person. This is Fade to Black. I'll be right back.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station. Salt Lake City, Utah. Van Buren, Arkansas.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube Matters Now. Health Matters Now. So, log on to getthetea.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's getthetea.com.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black.
When you're in the house for longer periods of time, you can see them flying or running across the floor. Ooh, yuck. They're unhealthy, gross, and disgusting. Bugs. I loathe bugs. We keep a clean home, but occasionally bugs show up. Well, I found something that is tougher than bugs. Orange Guard. On contact bugs, including ants, roaches, and fleas. Ingredients of Orange Guard are on the FDA generally recognized as safe list. Orange Guard may be used around food, humans, and pets. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Orange Guard, available at orangeguard.com, Whole Foods, and Ace Hardware.
Gold loves chaos, uncertainty, and disarray. History shows us what gold does when people aren't sure about the government, the stock market, or their retirement savings. Our national debt is skyrocketing. Gold and other precious metals are a defense measure against inflation and a stock that might take years to recover. So what can you do right now to protect yourself? Call United Gold Group. We offer gold and other precious metals delivered securely within 72 hours. Are you worried about the stock market? We can also help you set up a real gold or silver IRA or a 401k. Safe and secure. United Gold Group makes gold ownership affordable. Call now and get up to $2,500 in free gold or silver with a qualified IRA. Call 538534. That's 800-753-8534 or visit unitedgoldgroup.com.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Kathleen Marden. Incredible conversation. The bigger news, though, Mark Tarana is back, and I'm going to go straight to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hey, yo, can you hear me?
Yes, it is you.
Hey, Jimmy Church. Nice to talk to you. My name is Mike P., man. How are you?
I'm doing good. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
Yeah, little roadie. You know, I chimed in late tonight. I've been a Jimmy Church fan forever, but maybe not forever. I'm sure there's plenty of people in this chat that are way more Fade or Nots than me. Don't get me wrong.
Right on.
You know what I mean? But I just chimed in late, and I was super enthralled with the mystical aspects of how Mrs. Kathleen Marden was speaking. And I was thinking, Jimmy.
Yes.
What kind of experiences have you had that were so anomalous that maybe you haven't shared?
Yeah, I don't. Well, see, this is it. There's a weird zone that is possible, I think, with anyone, where if you go back and you think about certain experiences that you've had that felt a little bit strange, that you would be compelled to reach out to a therapist, have some regression done, go under hypnosis, and examine things. I'm not into. I don't know if I can.
I wasn't trying to go that far, Jimmy.
But you understand?
I'm not trying to go that far.
But this is that I know that I've had things happen in my life, does that qualify the need to maybe go out and investigate these further, or do you just leave them alone? Look,
you know what? You're making a great point, Jimmy. I don't want to cut you off. I want to add on to what you're saying. Like, you're right. And I think most people, it's a private, personal experience, and it's not for everybody. It's not to be shared online. And I totally respect that. I totally agree with that, where it's like everybody doesn't have to make a crusade to prove the spiritual experience that they had that was weird as hell when they were young or something. You know?
Right. And here's the other part, that if I had an actual missing time situation where I see a craft in the sky, I'm driving a car, I'm out in the woods, I'm with some friends, and we see something, and then we've got 6 hours missing, and we show up back at home or whatever, back at our car 6 hours later, I'm going to go and check. That's a different, but
I'm going to make sure the world hears about that.
Right. But I haven't had, as far as I know, I haven't had an experience like that. Look, I
respect that.
Yeah.
I respect that answer so much. Like,
now,
you didn't have to be that thorough.
Look, Mike, I've had people come up to me and say, hey, Yvonne Smith and Daryl Sims, and of course Kathleen and others. I know a lot of therapists that have said, maybe you should go and let's examine this and let's see if any. You know what? No, I'm cool with the way that I remember things. I don't want to know.
I respect.
Yeah, I don't want to know. Mike, thank you so much for the phone. Yeah, thank you, man.
Hey, Jimmy, can I wrap it up? Can I add one more thing?
Sure.
Just to wrap it up, like, I really appreciate your perspective on that. I think a lot of people sometimes get caught up with these really awesome experiences that some people are willing to share with the world. But everybody might have them, but it doesn't mean that everybody has to share them just because they have a Twitter. Like, it doesn't mean that your experience of an orb going through your room is worthy of a book, right? So it's like there's a certain level of like, yes, we are all experiencing this wonderful world.
Yes.
And there's only so many ways that we can help try to get it across. You know what I mean? So Jimmy, I appreciate your. Man, I'll be in tune.
Yeah, man, you're the best, man. Thank you so much, Mike. And he's right. He's right. And I can take his thought a step further, and which is I agree with what he just said. But what I mean is to take his thought a step further. Is an orb in a room extraordinary? Is it just a part of life now? And to take that a step further, I was talking with Yvonne Smith on Monday about this, that when if disclosure, if the craziness starts, right? ETs are here, there's government confirmation, here's some astronomers and astrophysicists, and they've got evidence, and Oumuamua comes back, and we have another visitor from interstellar space, and there's an FSB radio burst contact with a message. Something happens. Does this mean that we have 1 million, 10 million, 100 million experiencers suddenly coming forward? Is that going to happen? Right? It's a pretty interesting situation that we find ourselves in. It really is. Let's go back to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hey, Jimmy, this is Carrie in Palm Springs. How are you?
I am fantastic, Carrie. How are you?
I'm terrific. If I may speak for all of your fans and listeners and Sadernauts, thank you for this week. We have been there right with you, pulling for you to get everything connected and working in the bunker, the new bunker. And wow, what a big thing for you to go through. So thank you. And, we know you're going to get it all worked out, and we're just here supporting you because we know how much you support us. So thank you.
Yeah, the fun's about to start. We've got the bottom line is we've got the show on the air, right? Okay,
Yep.
so we're past that, and now we are about to have some fun. Obviously, we're going to decorate and paint and guitars and lighting and start to turn this into something really, really cool. I mean, look, this needs to be my space, right?
Yes.
It needs to be my thing, but it's also visually very cool for all of you, right? And I'm at the point now where I can just kind of go, okay, all right. But I've got a blank palette in front of me, right? A clean palette.
Well, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
You can just kind of mold it, create it, and, the little things maybe you wish you had at the other bunker, you can create at the new bunker. And the sound is actually really good in this new bunker.
Is it? Is it?
Yeah, it really is. It's actually, I think, slightly better than the previous bunker. Swear to you. Mm-hmm. Pretty clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We on the other side, there's a wall that's about 6 feet in front of me. I've got a wall that's about 6 feet in back of me, and on this wall, we just hung a huge piece of acoustic paneling, which is, I guess, I don't know, 8 feet by. It's bigger than 4. It's probably 8 by 6, and it's gorgeous, and it's gray. So that's now in front of me. That wasn't there earlier this week. That got hung today, and so that
You can
probably
tell the difference.
yeah looks good too as well. It looks really good. But there you go. Thank you, not only Carrie for your words, but to the audience and understanding. How difficult this is to do and get up and running. It was frustrating. Like earlier tonight. I'll go back to earlier tonight when there was no audio on the video feed. Now, what was weird about that? There was audio all week, right? There was internet issues, but there wasn't equipment issues. Now we don't have internet issues, and now, tonight I look over and I don't see the meters jumping, and for some reason, that particular audio interface, there's 3 that run the show, but that particular interface was lighting up, but it wasn't recognized and these are brand new computers, right? That's a brand new interface. These are brand new cable. This is brand new, and to have that happen was just bizarre. And so now I got to go from show head into tech head, and I've got Drew on the East Coast, and Drew is looking at, he can run the show from the East Coast. So he's looking at the feed. He's looking at everything. He sees everything. He can adjust. He's a producer. He's an engineer. So now I've got him looking at it, and I was just like, I don't want to go into this mode. I'm in another mode. I don't want to go into tech mode. And then suddenly it was, clicking of a box, and then we got the show back. And now I've got to go from show head to tech head to angry head back to show guy, right? Just like click, 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 and all of you guys are putting up with that. So
we're here for you, Jimmy. We got your back. You got ours. Don't you worry. It's all gonna smooth out.
Thank you so much, Carrie.
You're so welcome. So, Kathleen was amazing to have on this evening, all of your guests this week. The Benny and Barney Hill and Betty and Barney Hill, it really put a pin on it, didn't it? This is like the quintessential true abduction case. And what a remarkable guest this evening. And, it just opens up. It's still such a landmark case. But I think it's very interesting, and I wanted to pose this question to you. For the last 10, 15, 20, 30 years, we hear less and less cases of abductees, like you mentioned before this call, less abductees, being taken on to craft and having experiments or testing, more different types of experiences. And my question to you and all the listeners, and just food for thought, do you think we're dealing with different types of aliens over the last 2 decades, or do you think that they have evolved? So they're obviously, if they're so advanced, they're evolving rapidly, so they're kind of done with that, and now they're moving on to other types of activities? I don't know. What do you think?
No, I don't think it's stopped.
Really?
I don't think that it has. And hear me out. What has been repeated over and over again is that people don't necessarily remember these. They're not recall. So how many don't even know?
That's a good point.
If Betty and Barney didn't have their hypnosis sessions, we wouldn't know about these things, right?
Yeah.
And now Travis is completely different in that his situation was I almost said in the first person. Of course, it was in the first person, but his memory,
real time, like
right,
he was
right.
within the time of it happening, aware.
He was conscious, right. And so he's a unique situation. Calvin Parker is another situation where it is all right there in front of him. So, but with others, where you have this missing time, and it's a very, very consistent experience where somebody feels something is different, so they have to go and chase it down and find it and get it unblocked. Look, we are dealing with a species that has to be way more advanced than us. Not because they're ET, because they are arriving here. So they have that ability, that technology, that knowledge, that everything that is involved with that. They are beyond us. We are not going there. If we were going there, right, how advanced would we be? Well, I don't know if it's 100 years away or 1,000 years away or 10,000 years away or 1,000,000 years away. But what I do know is that they are coming here. So they would have the ability to do whatever they want with our minds, with our memories, with communication, with all of that. We're dealing with something that clearly is way beyond our technical grasp. We don't know. And
we don't know.
They may not be, and I've thought about this a lot, Carrie. They may not even be erasing our minds. They may not be doing that. What if we are being moved into another dimension where that's it, and we come back here, and everything that happened there stays there, right? I don't know. I'm just using
some sort of a time warp where they can move us into where time is faster or slower, and then bring us back.
Exactly my point. That's exactly my point. And man, you are smart. You listen to a show called Fade to Black.
I do
now,
every night,
but
and I always learn at least 2 good things.
Well, because when we look at these concepts where you go, let's get outside of the box a little bit.
Yep.
Because if we constantly think in our terms of our reality and who we are, how we see, how we feel, how we experience everything here, our time, right? That we are just assuming that another civilization out there from another star system is going to be operating on our time scale. What if it is something now not only slower or faster, but that just means their entire existence is something that we wouldn't see, we wouldn't hear, we wouldn't experience. And what we do see and what we do detect is noise. Right? It's just not in our space and time. You know.
Well, there's light. There's light in the spectrum we can't see with a human eye. There's tones we can't hear. So maybe there's time frames we can't quite fully experience unless we're helped to move in and out of those time frames.
Yeah, dimensions. You know,
Dimensions.
And it's just something that we can't detect or see, and we're wondering why telescopes and things and radio telescopes aren't seeing the trade routes between stars, right? And we're not seeing galactic craft, and we're not seeing any of this action because we're assuming that all of that is going to happen the way we live. But it's probably not that kind of party. I don't even know how it could be. And if we just look at the basics of the basics, and I'm not a physicist, I'm not some kind of pedigreed scientist, but look at it this way: our Earth has its gravity. We are a certain distance from the sun. Everything about us in the electromagnetic side and everything else that makes us us, and the way the way that electrons and things and the atoms in our body make us up, right?
Correct.
You go out to another star system, to another planet with different gravity, with a different orbit around their star. Their year is different. Everything is different. So how can we, our year, right? I don't know how old you are, Carrie, but I'm going to say right now, I'm 57 years old. Okay? Why am I 57? I'm calling myself 57 because the 57 runs around our sun.
It's around the sun,
right? Now, how is the life measured with another? We're seeing planets all the time now that are taking an orbit a day, right? Just ripping. What is the concept of time there?
Right. And also gravitational pull, depending upon, the iron ore, the poles of planets around particular suns and other, heavenly bodies within whatever solar system structure they're in, including binary solar systems, etc. They really may have a quite different relation to time, gravity, space, and all of that in a way that we can't quite know or think of. So by staying open-minded and thinking outside of the box, I used to be, years ago, other dimensions. That's sci-fi crazy stuff, right? I didn't really believe in it. But I've learned to kind of keep my mind open and start to realize that time and space may bend quite differently under different, very physiological, and physics could explain the basics of why it does in different regions. We just don't know the elements that may make it that different quite yet. so by understanding or keeping an open mind that time, space, and all of that may have a lot of variables in different parts of the universe, and allow for space travel and allow for these time warps where individuals, beings that come from these other systems can perhaps manipulate or bring with them some sort of technology or adaptations to our environment that allow for these bends in time and space and perhaps consciousness.
Wow, that's heavy.
So,
Carrie, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We'll see you on Monday. Great phone call.
All right, Jimmy. Thank you.
Have a great
Fade
night.
Black.
Fade to black. Right on, Carrie. That's a great phone call right there. And the obvious is the obvious. Time is, every celestial body is changing time. That's it. That's it. Gravity, time, as you go out through the universe and throughout the any galaxy, time is bending everywhere you go. It's not linear. It's not the same. Let's go back to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hi, Jimmy. It's Deb.
Hey, Deb. How are you?
I'm bloody fantastic because the book from Oz is back.
Yes. I mean, how
And I'm so happy.
and now, you know, and I'm so happy that he's here, and relieved. But now it appears that we can't shut him up, and so yes, he is back. He's officially back.
That's good. Well, because we started questioning months ago, and I know, Mark, if I know you're listening and love your brother, I sure hope you reach out. I'd love to talk to you. Back when he had surgery last year, he was back maybe a week or two after that, and then, you know, for about a week, and then he disappeared. And so that was the time frame. And so, yeah, we've all been really worried. I was going to do the typical April Fool's joke for you, Jimmy, you know, and it's always, oh, I won the lottery, right?
Did you win the lottery?
Well, no, I didn't win the California lottery, and this is dead serious. It's not a joke. But that's always, you know, what you say to people, oh, April Fools. No, my uncle passed back in December, and I knew he would leave my mom something. And she got her packet, you know, early this week, and I used to work for a living at Trust Attorney, and so I went over everything with her because her eyes aren't real good. And, you know, it was what I thought it would be. And today I got a packet from his attorney, too. So it's not like a huge life-changing amount, but I definitely want to use some of it. There are a few causes that I want to contribute to, homelessness and animal causes, but I'm definitely going to use some of it for hypnotic regression, because the other night when Yvonne was on talking about waking up outside in your pajamas, and I was 8 years old when it happened to me, and I always thought it was sleepwalking, and the more I find out about it, that and one other incident, I just can't leave this life without, you know, someday when I pass on, I need answers. And it's taken me all this time to get up the courage to want to pursue it, and I will at some point.
Well, keep us posted. Keep us posted. Well, thank you for breaking in the phone lines tonight. And I've got to do the wonderful thing and get to credits, which means that we managed to get through this show. Thank you so much, Deb.
Thank you, Jimmy, for taking my call. And everything looks and sounds great, and you're doing a great job. We really appreciate you.
Well, it should really be kicked up a notch on Monday. Have a great weekend, Deb. Thank you so much.
You too, dear. Good night, Faders.
Right on. All right. What we got through it. We got through it. Thank you, Kathleen Marden, and not only a great conversation, but I want to thank all the Fadernauts. It has been a trying week, but it's all good. I'm in a great mood. Bloke from Oz is back. Mark Tarana, man, he gave us a scare, bro. Gave us a scare. Maybe one day we'll get the story. Fade to Black's executive producers Rita Camarion. Show is produced by Hill J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Thank you so much, Drew. Rough week, my man. You're the best. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication is KGRA. the planet. This broadcast only copyrighted 2021 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or reused anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm going to take a night off, but tomorrow, paint. Got a lot to do. You guys have a great weekend. Be safe. It's time to fade to black.